It's January 4th, 2018, and you're listening to episode number 6 of the IoT Weekly podcast. Hello and welcome to episode number 6 of the IoT Weekly podcast, brought to you by Gearforge Software. My name is Matthew, and I'm joined by my co-host and good friend, Cliff. How you doing today, Cliff?
Doing really well. Yourself, Matthew?
Doing great. Feeling good. Ready to record a new episode here. Excited about the news.
Yeah, there's some fun stuff coming up this session here, and I know last was a little bit light due to the holidays, but with all the new year, there's a lot of new stuff coming out.
Absolutely. So what have you been up to lately?
Well, you talked a little bit about Microsoft, and I decided to dive in myself. I've got a Mac. I used to be, as you know, a hardcore C#. Actually, I broke my teeth basically with C# after college.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been a PC guy, and I switched over a long time ago when we were doing mobile development over to a Mac just because it's a lot easier. And I've done Java and everything else since then, but I've always kind of wanted, I guess you'd say, towards C#, and I decided to pull down .NET and give it a try on the Mac. I got my first Hello World done this morning on the Mac, and instead of using the typical Visual Studio, I'm just using command line because I'd like to actually really leverage the command line side of things versus kind of doing everything through a WYSI. So it should be fun playing with this a little bit more.
Yeah, that's exciting. And you're talking about the .NET Core 2.0 that Microsoft has. It's the open source. I guess a few years ago they open sourced .NET, and then really did a lot of work kind of rethinking it, especially basically console and web app specifically, kind of rebuilding it from the ground up to support multiple operating systems.
And that's exactly. I mean, that's the fun part of it is it's the .NET, the 2.0. So it's all the stuff I'm accustomed to. Nothing crazy. I think you can actually put in quite a few different project types from what I can see. So you've got API and console and MVC and quite a few others actually also.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. I mean, I've been following this for a while. I'm always interested in what's going on with open source, and I'm specifically interested in what Microsoft's been doing with open source, mainly for historical reasons. They used to be sort of the bad guy in the open. It was like Microsoft versus the open source community, and all of a sudden, in the last few years, that has just flipped around. And I'm super excited about .NET Core as well. I really like C#. I think it's a great language. I've always been put off by sort of the bulkiness of Visual Studio and the limitations of having to work on Windows and that kind of thing, and more importantly, deploy on Windows. So I thought this .NET Core super exciting, and that's great.
Well, and you get so much extra baggage, and half the time you had to go under the covers anyway to get the changes that you need to make just for your project when you run it on the servers. So this is kind of fun doing it this way. So I'm going to try going through creating up a project, and I'd like to actually work on actually deploying it on a Linux box is really what I want to do.
Yeah, that sounds like fun. I look forward to hearing kind of how that turns out.
How about you? What have you been doing here?
Well, I think I've mentioned, on previous episodes that I've been kind of kicking the tires on. Basically, I'm thinking of it as kicking the tires on Linux in Windows. So the Windows subsystem for Linux, which has been around now for, I don't know, a year or two. I don't remember when they launched it, but I've definitely been using it. But more recently, been kind of, seeing how well this will work for me as maybe a daily operating system.
Oh, sure.
And one of the things that I did was been trying out PowerShell, and I mentioned that last episode. What's kind of interesting, or what's happened since then, is I actually did the opposite. I took PowerShell and installed it on my Mac and my Linux machine, and I'm kind of to spend probably most of my time. I do all my work on a Mac, but on my free time, I tend to be on a Linux machine, and like I said, I've been kind of testing Linux on Windows, if you will. But this is just straight up Ubuntu 16.04. I installed PowerShell on there and started playing around and took a few utility scripts that I had and gave those a try. And I actually found a bug. I wasn't sure it was a bug, but what's cool is I looked up the PowerShell community, the public Gitter forum that they have.
Yep.
For the PowerShell team, and I put what I had found, and basically what I'd found was this problem. It's basically only happens if you're on the exFAT file system, which is a little bit of an edge case. But I wasn't sure it was a bug. I wasn't sure if maybe it was just unimplemented functionality. Maybe this was a known issue on Linux. What I was surprised by was I got a response from a team member within an hour from the PowerShell team, and he'd actually come back and said, "Oh,
that was over the weekend, right?"
Yeah. Not only was it over the weekend, it was on Saturday.
That's crazy.
He actually went in, put together a sort of, based on the information I'd given, a test case essentially, and came back and validated that yes, it is in fact a bug, and I think it's a bug in .NET Core. So he, opened an issue on the CoreFX project. And then the next day, which was New Year's Eve, I couldn't believe it. Somebody from the CoreFX team had chimed in on this issue and even provided a potential fix. So I actually downloaded this code, built the .NET Core libraries, and verified that that was actually the fix. And he's now asked for a pull request to integrate this change.
Wow.
What was impressive to me, so this, anytime you've got a big software project, there are going to be bugs, and if it's cross-platform, that's even, it's just going to happen, right?
Yeah.
I was so impressed that, I put something into this forum, and not only was it like responded to, but it was responded to so quickly, and there was it was very collaborative feeling. There was no sense of, okay, we'll take a look at this, or anything like that. It was like, oh yeah, you're right, this is a bug, and here, let's put it over here. And somebody responded to it immediately and was like, hey, can you help? It's amazing. And all of this from the new Microsoft. So not to sound too excited about all this, but I think it's pretty cool.
It sounds really cool, and just really surprised they're working over the weekend like that. And these are probably just individuals, probably not even working. They're probably just monitoring it and jumping right in. That's
what
really
I'm thinking.
Impressive.
I feel like it's the volunteer, sort of ethic that you get with open source, that people want to contribute. And I'm not sure if these folks were working at that point or just, happened to check into the feed and got intrigued,
Of course.
But either way, I don't know, when you ping maybe a big software company with a potential bug, usually my expectation is you're not going to get any response, right?
And if you do, we're talking months, not literally hours.
Right. Repeated attempt to contact, hey, is somebody looking at this? And this was just like a breath of fresh air. So amazing. So kudos to Microsoft and the PowerShell team. So we're both kind of playing around with this. The new Microsoft stuff.
It is kind of funny because I shifted from Amazon now over to Microsoft to play with this a little bit.
Yeah, well, and they do have some interesting IoT stuff coming up, which I haven't spent much time with, but it's on my list for sure.
Yep, I know they do. All right.
Well, so it's time for feedback. Did we get any feedback today or this week?
I did not see anything come through for the podcast. We did have a little bit more interaction on our Twitter. So I'm hoping it's some of the folks that actually listen to the actual show that's following us on Twitter. If not, they could just be random folks. I'm not entirely certain.
We're glad to have you either way.
Either way, so it is nice to see we've grown from 2 followers, Matthew and I, up to 8 as of just at the beginning of this show. So it's pretty exciting.
That is fantastic. And what is our Twitter handle again?
Our Twitter handle is Gearforge IoT.
Gearforge IoT. All right, fantastic. If you're listening, please follow us on Twitter. And a reminder that we are running a contest. When we get 50 followers, We'll choose one of you at random to receive an IoT button from Amazon. And if you boost our tweets by retweeting them, we'll put your name in the hat extra times, basically. So
I love extra chances. I can tell you that.
absolutely. Yep. We just want to encourage some interaction and trying to get the word out a little bit. Obviously, we're a new podcast, so
Hmm.
yeah, we want to get some more followers. So please follow us on Twitter for a chance to win an IoT button from Amazon.
Definitely. And of course, if you have feedbacks, please feel free to shoot us a message at podcast@gearforgesoftware.com, or again, throw it to us on our Twitter. We have no problem either way.
Yep, we'd love to hear from you. Whatever it is that you're interested in, maybe topics for future episodes, maybe you're interested in doing an interview, maybe you don't even have anything IoT related to say, you just like to chime in. We'd love to hear from you. Doesn't matter what it is.
Yes.
And we have kind of a big event coming up here soon. Is that true?
Yes. So of course, if you're not on Twitter or Facebook, or if you're kind of not
Basically,
following
if you
tech,
live in a cave.
basically yes, because now is the time of year when everything, all of a sudden, we seem to be getting inundated with all types of news about new products coming out and debuted, and it's typically around a certain show that happens every single year.
What do you mean by a show?
It's yeah, exactly.
It's just
It's a
like
bit more than just a show. It's fairly large.
It's an epic event.
It's a massively epic event. So it's the Consumer Electronics Show for 2018. So CES 2018. It's going to be happening January 7th through the 12th. So that's next week. And this thing's going to be kicking off. But as you can imagine, we're seeing all types of press releases for this, that, other, just insane amount of different items coming out this year, and that are going to be debuted. And there's so many that are IoT related.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is going to be an exciting time over these next few weeks. I think for exactly that, those product releases and news, we should have so much to talk about.
I look forward to it. Well, and on top of that, we've had other things that we've talked about previously that probably February, March timeframe should be coming out. So we'll follow up with some of those previous announcements just to see if they're actually out yet.
Yeah, fantastic. I look forward to that.
Mhm.
Should be a ton of exciting news.
I know, I can't wait.
Absolutely. Well, now it's time for a word from our sponsor, Gearforge Software. Gearforge Software was founded to focus on and develop Internet of Things technology and create custom IoT solutions. There are so many things to consider when you're trying to develop a new idea. There's the hardware, the software, there's connecting all of it to the cloud, and then you want to stop those nasty hackers that will try to tear into your data and steal all of your secrets and give them away on the internet. Or sell them, even
Yes.
worse. What you need are some techie advisors to help guide you through the wild west of this new digital frontier. And not to call anybody else, but I know a few techie advisors. Do you, Cliff?
I know a couple geeks that you might want to call.
Couple of geeks. Yep, absolutely. Gearforge Software has 2 IoT labs and can bring any prototype to life. Gearforge Software also does custom software development. So if you are in need of somebody to take a look at your project, and Gearforge Software is a great option. So thanks for sponsoring the show. And you
Thank
can
you much.
learn more at gearforgesoftware.com.
Excellent.
And now it's time, Cliff.
It's
time for the news.
Time for the news. Here we go. All right. So what do we got up for today?
Well, first up, we have an article about kind of a news release related to FirstNet partnering with AT&T for public safety and IoT. This is a pretty cool thing, I think.
Really? Why is that?
From what I understand, basically all of the U.S. states have opted in to FirstNet's public safety network. And I think the idea here is FirstNet is working with AT&T. They're basically working to create this high-speed network that is targeting the nation's public safety workers. And the idea here is they're building an application ecosystem, that's what they call it, which will allow third-party developers like us to create a range of IoT services for police, firefighters, and other first responders. I read this.
Interesting.
Yeah,
So is FirstNet essentially the backbone, and then AT&T is coming along as the communication capabilities
that's right. Yeah,
to
so I think
communicate?
FirstNet is providing what they're calling their application ecosystem, but basically this is going to be the platform, right,
Hmm.
that allows you to integrate. And I think this is brilliant. Like the first off, the fact that states have already opted into this, to
That's
me, I think,
huge.
yeah, it's
Absolutely
huge.
huge.
It's fantastic
Oh my
versus just
gosh.
having, let's say, we're going to try to build a network for this. That's still pretty theoretical. This is like a very specific use case. Hey, this is for first responders. States have already bought into this idea,
Hmm.
and Cliff, get some of these ideas here. They've got a little what do you call it? An infographic
Oh,
on the
sure. Yeah, I see it
article.
here.
Yeah, and so video surveillance, smart energy meters, um, checking for fire prevention functionality. I don't know, like
Sure.
uh, smoke detectors and
Yeah, yeah,
all that stuff. Like think about just even being able to know that all the smoke detectors in a building maybe have the backup batteries are not
yeah,
dead, right?
yeah.
Um, security, elevators, maintenance and
Hmm.
performance, occupancy, are people in the building, can lights
Oh,
be
that's
turned
that's
off?
absolutely huge. I mean, and if you take this even further, I can see this easily beyond kind of the public, or excuse me, the public facilities, like even college campuses.
Hmm. Oh, absolutely, yes. I think this is aimed at the first responders, but you can see how this same concept could be applied to any number of things. I think a college campus that you mentioned is like that's perfect. Yeah, absolutely.
Do they give any details about kind of their what they're going to be leveraging with regards to AT&T? As you know, I love the connectivity side of things. So, and what they're going to possibly leverage for bandwidth or anything like that?
Yeah, so it says AT&T will get access to 20 megahertz of 700 megahertz band 14 low band spectrum in every state across every country, across the entire country, and $6.5 billion in federal funding to help build out that coverage. So, yeah,
Wow,
it seems like this is like a big deal,
that's huge.
right?
Yeah, I mean that really, golly, just having that network available and the possible integration with that is just massive.
Yeah, and the article says that AT&T has pledged to spend $40 billion over the life of the 25-year contract. 25-year
Wow.
contract. So that's huge, huge.
So are
This,
these guys going to be at CES?
that's a good question. I don't know.
I
Are
thought
they?
I'd seen that in the article that they're going to be showing up.
I've read several
Oh, yep,
articles
right
now.
here. Indeed, he will be at the next week's Consumer Electronics Show in Vegas
Oh
and
yeah, I
plan
see
to
it.
draw up interest among developers to create smart application for FirstNet's public safety app store. Huh.
Super cool.
We should see if we can get a hold of this guy
We
or if
totally
somebody
should.
knows it. This is really, really cool.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this one. I feel like a lot of times many of the news articles about new things in IoT, a lot of them feel a lot more theoretical than this.
Oh
It's like,
yeah.
well, we're gonna try this thing and see if it helps. And then sometimes you get something really specific, like here we have a system for sensors to track the temperature of milk when it's traveling between Australia and China. you know,
Very, very specific.
but this one seems like it's right in between. It seems like a big vision that actually has something behind it, right?
Yep.
It's got a plan, it's got funding, it's got all this stuff. So I think this is exciting. And this article, I should mention, this showed up on fiercewireless.com, so you can check it out in the show notes.
Huh.
Yeah, it's exciting.
That is super exciting. Yeah, we'll have to see if we can't get a hold of these folks just to talk more about this.
Yeah, I'd love
I
to do an
really
interview with them.
have a ton of questions with regards to kind of how this is going to lay out and probably a few more specifics, but it sounds like they've got a lot of it nailed down.
But yeah, and at least on the big picture side, it seems like, we know who's going to be using it. It's all
Yep.
50 states have signed up. We know there's money behind it, right? So,
Mhm.
it's like, then it's implementation details, and
That's it. That's
yeah,
it. Interesting.
and an opportunity, I think, to see some cool technology getting put into place for real, not just
Oh,
in theory.
yeah. I could see this. You couple this with some machine learning and a few other opportunities, or AI, and I think you'd really get some interesting scenarios here.
Yeah, you got to wonder like so I think there's
Because
some
I mean,
interesting.
think about if you did the just a side note for occupancy sensors.
Yep.
So what if you could take it and say, hey, we're seeing some really odd behavior for this one room because it never usually gets this much occupancy based off of patterns we're seeing, right?
Mhm.
You could almost do risk assessment based off of that.
You totally could. And they were talking about, what if you've got this network set up, and so like the police could actually access the a particular, let's say, a department store's video network,
Oh
right,
gosh, sure.
surveillance network,
Yep.
before entering the building. And I just saw a story yesterday about a call that had gone wrong. Basically, by the time it got, I don't know where the mix-up was, but by the time it got to the dispatcher, it was a as an armed robbery.
Huh.
It was actually a complete. They had called it in as a shoplifting. I think. Again, I don't know if they called it in as armed robbery or they called it in as shoplifting. Person was doing neither and almost got shot because he was wearing headphones.
Oh
But the
gosh.
police had to go in with weapons drawn because they don't know what they're going to confront. But what if you could surveil the place before you get there? You know what I mean? Like,
Sure.
it's like, oh, I can see this guy's holding a bottle of shampoo. you know, this is not an armed person. So you think, man, that might be great, right? We have an opportunity to maybe prevent some, give people more information, and
Yeah.
uh, maybe reduce the risk in some of these high tension situations. But also I wonder now, what are the privacy implications, I guess? What does that mean for who accesses what, and what do you have to do? What are the legal ramifications? Are there new laws coming? So if you're a pharmacy and you have a surveillance network, can the police tap into that at any time?
That's a great question.
How does that work? So, and then who figures that out, and what's the technology that facilitates it? Is it something
Yeah.
that every network, so if you have a private surveillance network in your business, you can provide access to the police?
Hmm.
Can they tap in at any time? Like, how does that work?
Well, it looks like it's going to take a few years. So I found another article here that so FirstNet they vowed it's going to have its core network built by March, and
Mm,
their goal is to complete the entire network within the next 3 years.
wow.
And essentially, it sounds like that it says that effort is bound to lift the tower segment, according to Jennifer Fritsch. So it sounds like it's kind of because it looks like there's new towers that are going to have to get built by
Oh,
AT&T,
yeah.
just to make all this stuff work.
Yeah, it totally makes sense. And I don't know, I just think this is super. And we're also going to see a bunch of, as new capabilities come online,
Oh yeah.
we're going to see a bunch of new questions too. How do you actually manage all of this?
Well, that's what I'm curious about. I mean, yeah. I'm really, really interested in this. This sounds super exciting, and I think there's a lot of different things. And I think I can't be the only one having questions, especially if you're a major city and like to start implementing this thing. It's like, all right, what's next, or how do we start, or
Where do
is
you
there ways?
start?
Yeah, well, are there grants available to start implementing this?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Super cool.
Oh
Can't wait
yeah,
to
yeah.
follow this story.
Yep, I think this is one we'll have to keep tabs on and just kind of keep coming back around on.
I'd also be really interested if you're listening to the podcast. I I read this story and I'm really excited about it because I get excited about technology. Um, as you know, every episode I chime in with something privacy related because that's another one of my interests. Right? Is, hey, technology is great, but it's also, it can get a little creepy sometimes. And I'd be super interested to know, if you're listening to the podcast, if you're, what do you think of this? What do you think of this sort of network for first responders? I think at surface level, it is great. It's going to help save lives probably. and reduce costs and make things better. But what do you think about the privacy implications? I'd be interested in hearing from some listeners.
Yeah, I think there's privacy, and then because it seems like, again, it comes back to security. How are they going to secure this darn thing?
Well, that's a really, yeah, those two go hand in hand, I think.
And always, because every one of these folks, someone's going to have access to the back end of these things, and of course, someone's going to leave their password as password, and
yeah.
it
Oh, wait,
always happens.
that's not a good password, Cliff?
Only if you leave it all lowercase. If you actually
Oh,
if you put the P uppercase, it's totally fine.
that creates enough entropy.
Yes, that's all you got to do is a capital P, and you're perfectly fine.
Sometime we should actually do a segment on password security.
Yes.
That's one of my favorite topics.
I'd be like, it's super easy to do brute force attacks. I mean, crap, it's about the simplest thing you can do, especially if it's the password, for God's sakes.
Exactly. Yeah, that is interesting. I hadn't really spent much time thinking about that, but you're right. Yeah, it's the same. It's like anytime any of this stuff is on the network,
Yep.
who and how does it get abused,
Yeah.
And what is the ramification of that?
Yeah, and I think you've got to really now be careful of all the different sensors that are being connected. That's a critical scenario.
Well, and also decisions have to be made about what does it report, and so for example, we've got all of these, let's say fire extinguishers or smoke detectors, and they're reporting in. That's relatively, I'm not super worried about that.
Nope.
But you've got security cameras and occupancy sensors, and
Yeah.
what is that, what is the ramification of that?
Oh, of course.
And so if you're the good guy, you can tell, oh, there's a fire, you can tell where people are, right? It's like your firefighters can respond and go right to the rooms where there are people to help them get out, which saves lives, everybody's lives, right? But if you're a bad guy,
well, it works in your favor the same way.
you can tell where the security guards are.
And you can tell where the people are, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So
yeah, you're totally right. That would be, wow, that'll be interesting.
Schools and all that stuff. Yep. So
I feel like somebody needs to make a movie.
Oh gosh.
or a thriller novel or something.
Yes.
Based around this.
Yes, the technology.
Yeah, it's like Nakatomi Plaza, IoT version. Die Hard IoT.
Oh, who's cast as the main character? I mean,
I don't know. That's a good question. I assume it would be what is it? Dwayne Johnson, The Rock?
Dwayne The Rock Johnson? Yeah. Yes.
Don't you think?
With the click, like, hey, one of those.
Yeah. Love it.
Oh gosh, yes. Okay. Well, I think we've gotten off a bit of a tangent there, like normal, but that's perfectly fine.
That was an excellent tangent. I'll take it.
Okay. So what do we have up next here, Matthew?
So we have the Pi server. Is this what you get at Baker Square?
It is what you get at Baker Square. It's not as tasty, but it's still pretty good.
Excellent. It's not cream filled.
It's not cream filled, unfortunately. No. So the Pi server, this is something I ran across on the raspberrypi.org on their blog. And this is something I just came across Twitter here. So what happened is they've developed a new piece of software called the Pi server. And I'll just read through kind of what it says here. We've got, of course, a link to the article, but it says, use this tool to easily set up a network of client Raspberry Pis connected to a single x86-based server. Like, why is it going to be x86?
Yeah, that's very specific.
Yeah, I know. I was a little surprised by that. Via Ethernet. With Pi server, you don't need SD cards, which I thought was really cool.
Really?
You can control all clients via the server, and you can add and configure user accounts. So it's ideal for classroom, home, or industrial settings.
So are we saying
you can reboot these things via the x86 based server?
So is it doing like network boot or
Yeah,
something?
yeah, it's
Oh
doing a
yeah,
network. It's
cool.
super slick. So you configure it first with the SD, pop it out after you've ran. There's a command line and whatnot that you have to do, but then you can boot via server. And
Hmm.
this is something I know you and I have talked about before. Is like, all right, if you're in an industrial situation
Hmm.
and you've got one of these things and it's the middle of the day and you can't open it up because it's a clean room, well, and you've got an issue, what do you do?
Yeah.
I mean, you're not going to want to. You can't open the darn. Let's say you can't open the machinery out possibly. So I mean,
Well,
having to be able to boot via network is pretty slick, I think.
I mean, just for administrative purposes, just the fact that let's say you have a bunch of these,
Yep.
just upgrading them, right?
Oh, 100%.
Makes it way easier now, and
And
everything's
we've
consistent.
talked about the maintenance side of things.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Absolutely. This is cool.
Yeah. So this is kind of looks like phase one. It looks like there's a little bit of debate here about because they created Pi Server, but there was another one called Pi Network. It sounds like.
Hmm.
So there's a little bit of debate around why they did this and didn't essentially kind of fork Pi Network or PiNet, sorry, and kind of go that path. And they're like, nope. Um, uh, just wanted to really focus on what they're kind of fixing here with regards to being able to do kind of a network boot. And I thought it was pretty slick, actually.
Yeah, this is really cool. And all open source
Yep.
free, right?
Yeah, yeah, open source.
Very
I think the
cool.
only thing I wish it wasn't is this x86 type scenario. Um, that
Yeah, it
seems
looks
a
like
little odd.
they've got the server is Debian Stretch from what I
Hmm.
can see, which is interesting. I wonder why that is I wonder why that is default. I don't know. I'll have to look
I don't know.
further at that.
I think I'll reach out to them and just to get some info around why they took the x86. Unless there's a scenario is like, all right, we already have this this x86 Debian stretch, and we didn't want to kind of we could just kind of work off of that. Is the only thing I can think of.
Yeah, I don't know. That's interesting.
So yeah,
Well,
so I'll be curious to watch to see kind of direction this heads, but I do like the fact that you can actually, I love the fact that you can actually kind of do a network boot off these darn things.
I do too. I think it's super cool.
Yep, very, very cool. So it's really, it solves and they barely touch on the industrial, but I think that's the key component for me, of course, is the industrial piece.
Well, yeah, and some of this is less about Raspberry Pi. I mean, I think Raspberry Pi is cool,
Yep.
but it's the fact that we're starting to see some of these different patterns, right? And we've
Hmm.
talked about this before. The best practices haven't really emerged yet,
Yes.
and a lot of times, like I think about Docker this way, right? The Docker technology. It's like, man, that came along and it's similar in a lot of ways to things we've seen before, but all of a sudden it's like putting the pieces together in a new way, using,
Hmm.
leveraging technologies that technically have been there for a while but in a different way, and all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, that's the way to do this. And it just took off like crazy, and I think that's how I feel about some of these things. It's like, this is cool, partly because now you can do this, right? Oh yeah, let's leverage the Pixie boot and, we'll drive it all from a server, and now you can do some new things with it. But also because it's establishing a pattern and
Yep.
gets it out there, people try it, it gets refined, and we'll see that make its way into industrial contexts, right?
Yeah, and I think this
So,
is just phase one. There's a lot of just going through this. I already had a few suggestions and ideas off of this, and I was like,
mhm.
no, but I think it's a good start, especially since it's open source.
Yeah, well, absolutely. And this is where, it's like, this is where the prototyping happens. People will take
Exactly.
this, they'll do cool things with it. It'll feed back into the project, hopefully.
Hmm. Yep.
And we'll see where it goes from there.
Yep. All
Super
right.
cool.
Very cool.
So, up next, what is this IoT S badge?
Yeah, I grabbed this one just because I thought it was again. They're actually using. Where did I find this here? They're using LoRa gateways for this
Mm,
thing. And so again, it comes back to my affinity towards the networking side of things here.
mhm.
But this one here is they've created a new IoT security badge, essentially. I mean, this is like the security badge of security badge. It's kind of sick, actually. It's just amazing. So instead of essentially you walk up to the gate, you got let's say an NFC in it,
Yep.
you swing it by and it opens up.
Right.
This thing is actually being detected all the time through a LoRa gateway. So essentially, you've
Mm.
got a community, right? Or a campus, and you got and the LoRa can do 5 miles. You install one of those gateways, and crap, it's got your entire campus basically done.
Hmm. Hmm.
And this thing is just slick. So it's got a pre-programmed NFC chip, of course. It's got biometric authentication. So literally, it's got a fingerprint thing right in the badge.
Oh, no kidding.
And yeah, and it measures moisture, temperature, and electricity to make sure you're alive. So you didn't get like your thumb chopped off or something like that, and someone's trying to use it. Yeah, super gross, but we see that all the time in the movies, right? They go in and
Right.
this is going to save people's thumbs, is what it's going to do. I'm excited about that.
Yeah.
We're saving one thumb at a time here.
Love it. Yeah.
But then, yeah, on top of that, it actually then manages or watches where you're going.
Mm.
And if your patterns start to get kind of questionable, it
Hmm.
will actually use AI to alert somebody. It's like,
Hmm.
hey, you've been kind of hanging out in this secured area way too much. We're gonna tell somebody about that. So I was like, that is super slick.
That is super slick.
Yeah, yeah. So
I, I
really,
like I like this here. It's got a panic button built in.
it does. It
That's
does.
fantastic.
Yeah, so I mean, and now you got a panic button built right into this darn thing too,
Well,
which is
isn't
just
that an
amazing.
interesting use for this? We've been talking about the use for the cellular IoT buttons, right?
Yeah.
Isn't the panic button an interesting idea?
Mm-hmm.
You think about that for a minute. I mean, you would want to prevent false alarms, basically, but
Yep.
even just, from the standpoint of, hey, I'm in trouble,
Yeah.
that might be really powerful.
And all you got to do is hit it, right?
Yeah, you just have
And
to
that's all
push
you
the
need.
button.
Yep.
And can you have it in a pocket or something so that you could push the button discreetly? You know what I mean? Or
Of course.
is it like one of those zipper pulls or something?
Yeah.
Something that would maybe be a little bit more discreet. I don't know. Just I think that's interesting. I hadn't thought about that before.
Yep.
I like that though.
Yeah. Well, and we do actually have an actual implementation of the button as our next story.
Oh, really? Well,
Yeah.
let's talk about that. I feel like we're going like this episode is just verging on this like secret agent
I know,
level.
isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, if you're a secret agent, you probably have your own jet.
Yeah. But do you have a badge with a panic button on it? That's my question.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't have a badge with a panic button. I mean, that's pretty, well,
Do we
I
need
just,
them? I think
no, I don't think
probably
we
not.
do, but just the fact that it's like you have to have a live thumb to make this thing work is probably the coolest part for me.
Yeah, that is pretty cool. Dead thumb will
Yeah, you
not do
can't,
it.
no dead thumbs allowed.
It's good to know.
Yes, very
I
good to
do
know.
not want some, enemy spy cutting off my thumb to get
No,
access,
not at all.
to the base, whatever
Yep,
base.
exactly.
Love it. That's a good one. Good job.
Yeah, I really like that one. Yeah, so the next one, do you want to kick off the next one here?
No, you go ahead.
All right. Well, the next one here is actually a company has come out. You can actually order a jet flight with the click of a button.
Fantastic. This is what
Yeah,
I've been waiting for
same here. I
for
mean,
all my jet, my flying.
I don't know why we're like shooting so low with. Oh, I mean, remember Logan had asked, "Can you order a pizza with the button?" Right? And we're
Yeah,
like, "Yeah,
exactly.
you
Yeah,
easily could." Why would you order pizza when you can get a freaking jet?
absolutely. A lot of times I think about the things that I would want to automate with a button would be the things that I do all the time.
Yeah.
I would think the user who needs to order a jet with a button must be flying a lot.
Well, and it's pretty slick because it's a Grandview Jets, an affiliate of Grandview Aviation, just released a Press for Jet web-enabled button that allows a client to order a private jet at the press of a button. So it's set up. Of course, it's using the Amazon Web Services IoT button,
Yep,
and it's set
everybody's
up.
favorite.
Yeah, yeah. It's and it stores their preferences like their routes, meals and drinks, and any special requirements, and they're all connected to that client's button. So
S-
how it works is once you press the button, they're immediately contacted by Grandview Jet's dispatch department to
Okay.
arrange their trip, and wheels can be up in as little as 2 hours.
So this is so this is an implementation of what you and I have talked about
Yeah,
in
yeah.
theory before, which is like, hey, I need a plumber. It's way easier. Like it's kind of cool if our house is serviced by this big company that does plumbing and HVAC and all this stuff. And it's like I know I'm going to work with them, and if I had a button, I would just press it, and it would be way easier for me if I could press it and just get a call from them
Yep.
rather than me having to call and potentially be on hold, although I've never been on hold with them. But it's like sort of reversing the pattern. I send the signal, they call back when it's convenient for them, which is better than me sitting on the phone for a long time waiting for a representative. So that's kind of cool. That's an actual, like, somebody's doing it.
Yeah, somebody's definitely doing it. It looks like they had to actually, and it's being powered by Button Joy software. So I took a look at Button Joy, and they charge $2 a month to essentially provide an interface, like a web interface that sits over top of Amazon Web Services, it looks like.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so that way you don't have to actually have a AWS account. So we've got a couple different AWS accounts, and I use mine to when I powered up my button, I just used my AWS account. But a lot of folks aren't going to want to go in there and actually have to mess around with connecting up your actions and triggers and Lambda functions and all that stuff, right?
Well, yeah. Well, this is for the non-technical user, right?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Whereas we're
Precisely.
the technical user, we're happy to go in and write a Lambda function to do what we want it to do. As the non-technical user, you need something that's kind of set up for you.
Yep.
And
Precisely.
yeah, that's really
And
that's
that's what
really
it looks
slick.
like they've done is set that up so it's a little bit simpler for a company to use. So, and it looks like even Grandview though still had to configure each button for their individual users to actually
Which, yeah,
hook
that
up to
makes
the
sense.
Wi-Fi.
Well, and isn't that one of the challenges? So the cellular will be easier on
Yep.
this
So
front.
the LTEM,
Yeah.
so that button's going to be much simpler. I think that one's supposed to be coming out in like February or March, if I remember correctly. They're
Nice.
not out
Oh,
yet. You can't get those. So
well,
as soon as that sucker comes out, I'm buying
I
one,
love this. Are you
not
buying 10?
12.
Okay.
No, I'm not going to buy 10. I know. I'll never hear the end of this damn button thing.
No, everybody's got stories like that. So,
Yeah, and like you get excited sometimes and you can't help but buy 12 things,
Cliff, I
right?
get excited all the time. There was one time. So there was one time. It's actually really unfortunate. It was we were gathered because of a funeral, but we had a bunch of people. I don't know, it wasn't that many people, but I had sort of done some really bad estimation of pizzas, and somehow I ordered the pizzas, and somehow when they arrived, we had like 20 pizzas from
What?
Godfather's. Yeah, it was like more Godfather's pizza than you can imagine, and I'm not even sure to this day how it happened. So I think there may have been some confusion during ordering, but I will never live that down. I hear
Wow,
that
this is
from
for
my
a
mother-in-law
funeral?
to this day. Yeah, it was like after, we were kind of all gathered at the house and we needed some food. And
You probably
so
need like 2 pizzas or 5 pizzas, not 20.
we needed probably three, and I got 20. And so to this day, my mother-in-law is like, "Do you remember when you ordered 20 pizzas
Oh
for
my
us?" And we
gosh.
literally had a freezer full of Godfather's pizza for like 6 months. It was something. So everybody's got a story like that. Well, at least people who are easily like revved up,
Yes,
like you and
yes,
me.
for pizzas. I do like pizzas, so I could see myself doing that too.
I really didn't think it was so bad. It's like,
No, I'd be
huh,
like,
what do I feel like?
I tell you what, I will bring 5 boxes home. That's okay. I'll take
We
one
have
for the
one of
team.
those clamshell sort of big freezers down in the basement, and
Oh
literally
yeah.
you'd open the lid and it would just be pizza and Ziploc bags, like it's just full.
Like, no
Oh.
worries. I got this. I can get through this.
What do you want for dinner? Well, I guess it's pizza.
Well, I'm having pizza.
Yeah,
Just stock up on some ranch and some hot pepper flakes, and I'm good.
dude, now I want pizza.
Yes.
Oh man.
We
Well,
may
hey,
have to
this
like set
story,
this button up to order some pizzas.
I think we should do that. I think that would be a real kick.
Yeah.
You know, This Grandview story, I love it because we had literally, this was a hypothetical that
Oh,
we
of
had
course it
talked
was.
about previously, and to see somebody actually putting it to use, I think is really cool.
I do too. And this is something, of course, I mean, to roll something like this out, it's going to take, they've been working on this for months, right? So this isn't something
Yeah.
like they just started yesterday. So this is something that's been in the works for a little bit, probably right after the buttons came out, and like, hey, why don't we give this a try? So,
But here's why this is a
yeah,
great idea for a company is if so basically it gives you an edge. Why would somebody work with you? How do you help ensure that they work with you again? You make it as easy as possible for
that's
them
it.
to get in touch with you. And
Yep.
this is like, I think is a great way of doing it. And I'm curious to see how it works. I hope there's some follow-up news on it.
Yeah, I'll be curious to see how this does work. I think you're going to see more of these, especially once the mobile version comes out, because again, it's about how do you provision these devices a little bit easier.
Hmm.
I think you'll see more of this once the mobile version comes out, because there's no reasons like why I need to get an oil change. I'm going to just keep one of these things in my car. I click the button and my mechanic calls me up and says, "Hey, what about blah blah blah?"
Hmm.
You could do the same thing for a dentist, for goodness sakes.
Yeah, I love it. It actually kind of reminds me so there's a company here near us that does small engine repair. And
Hmm.
I think their business model is kind of slick because it basically you go to their website, you fill out a form and you click submit and you just sort of pick the day you want. And then
Sure.
you leave your lawnmower or whatever sitting outside your garage. They drive to you and fix it in your driveway.
Oh, that's perfect.
Isn't it? I thought, man, that's
Yeah,
super smart. So,
that is excellent. Oh my
yeah.
gosh.
And it just kind of reminded me of it's sort of reversed, and usually
Yep.
you call and you schedule an appointment and then, you got to figure out where to take the thing and all that. And it's like, oh no, we come to you
Well,
and you don't even need to schedule it. You just schedule the day and we'll show up
think about
sometime during that day.
a long time ago when apps first started coming out, mobile apps,
Hmm.
and a lot of folks said, "Oh, we want an app, so that way if a user needs something, they can call us." But the question and the thing that we'd seen was really the distribution of your app is the toughest thing because a lot of
Absolutely.
just so many different apps out there.
Hmm.
And if it's an app where they're just going to be using it once every 3, 4, 5 months, that's not going to happen.
You're going to delete it.
Oh, of course,
That's what I do.
100%. I love deleting apps. That's like the best part.
It is just, yeah, super fun.
Yeah. However, this here though really serves an interesting niche for that scenario.
Well, it allows you to sort of shortcut the traditional methods of getting
Yep.
in touch with your client, right? And it reverses it. So it's not like you give us a call or, hey, here's your app, but it's like, I'm going to hand you a physical object.
Hmm.
When you click the button, you will get in touch with us. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it sort of
Yes.
shortcuts everything. And it's at this point, it's novel. Might not be so much fun when you have like 50 companies that you work with all doing buttons. But right now, it'd be like if you're the one company, like I said, my HVAC and plumbing company that does the service. I mean, if they gave me a button, I mean, that would be so
Here would
cool.
be
It'd
the
just
fun
stand
thing.
out.
You would be in the house saying, "Where is the darn button? We lost the button again."
You're right. Honey, do you know where the button is?
And she's like, "Just call him for
Yeah,
God's sakes."
exactly. You're so right. Yeah,
Like, no,
but
we've got to use the button.
here's what made me think of it. Yeah, exactly. I want to use the button. They gave us a button for a reason.
Yes.
Here's the thing: is when they first came and set up like they went through and they did whatever their annual or they do it twice a year, I guess, but they did a check on everything. The first time they did that, they sort of went through and labeled everything. Like they labeled everything in our utility closet or whatever, a
Here in
furnace
my
room
head,
and
I'm
all this
like,
stuff.
here's the oven, here's
No,
the fridge.
it's like here's this is what this pipe is and this is
Oh,
what that
sure.
pipe is, and they put labels on everything. They're
Huh,
pre-printed
wow.
labels, and on every single label, here's the real reason they do it, it's got their phone number, right?
Of course, that's
But
slick.
now you've got a button with a magnet and it sticks right to the air duct
Yep.
of the furnace with their information right on it. It's like if I need to get in touch with them, you know where I'm going to go. I'm going to go to that furnace room and I'm going to look at one of those damn tags to call them.
Exactly. That's
But
exactly where I'm going to go.
now if I've got a button there and it's magnetically right on, sitting right there. I mean, isn't that just a step easier?
It's so much easier. Well, you can do the magnet, you can go zip strip. I mean, any of that is just super simple, right?
You know what? Here's what's going to happen. The kids are going to find it,
Oh, of course
and
they
they're
are.
going to push it like 100 times.
Well, yeah, of course they
so
are.
so maybe that plan's not going to work.
But I think if you call and then all of a sudden mom's going to be like, or you're going to be like, quit pushing the daggone button
Well,
for God's sakes. What do you
that
think?
is true. You could also, you could have it. You could give it a timeout, right? It's like,
And they actually come built with timeouts.
oh, fantastic. Yeah,
So that they've already got those built in.
I
So I
didn't
mean,
even
but if
know
you
that.
wanted, yeah, you can actually set them up with a large one if you want. But again, now you're messing with the Lambda function.
Well, yeah, but I mean, I was imagining, if you're doing this for a company, that's probably what you're doing.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Is you'd want to have some kind of timeout
yeah, and I
for
agree.
that.
Yeah, I think once the mobile version comes out, there's going to be for some of these larger firms, this is an easy. Why would you not do it?
I actually want to do that. I just want to let's find a company that needs that. And let's just get that done because I just want to see that happen.
I think it would be the coolest thing
Yeah.
because I mean, because a lot of them is going to be like, well, what's your business value of doing this, right? But if you
Mhm.
just moved in and a pizza company dropped off a button for you and said, hey, you click this button, we'll call you back and get you a pizza ordered right away.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty slick.
That is really cool, actually. I just feel like the novelty factor alone would be worth a lot,
Yeah,
right? It's like, who are you going to go with? Well, I'm going to go with the company that gave me this cool button. I mean,
yeah. Just
duh.
put your logo on it, put the phone number also just in case, so you've got it all right there. I mean, talk about just like you said. I mean, how many companies used to give you a magnet, right? You put it on the fridge and it would have their phone number. But now, what if you got the magnet with this button and you just put that on your fridge, and it
Yeah,
still
yeah.
has their phone number on top of it?
Cliff, that's exactly what I've got in my head. Yeah, exactly. It's like got a magnet on the back, and it's got the info, like it's branded
Yep.
for the pizza company. Just like that magnet, exactly, but way cooler.
Oh, way cooler because now it's more than just that one side. Well, we I think we've got a new product line here. So whoever wants to
Yep.
volunteer and do this, let us know. We'll figure out all the details, of course.
Click for pizza.
Yes, click for pizza. I love the pizza. Click
I
for
love it
beer.
too. Yeah, super fun. I feel like there are lots of cool opportunities with this, and I'm excited about that story. Somebody somebody making it happen.
Entirely. Okay. Do we have anything else?
Well, I think that just about wraps it up.
Okay.
Just as a friendly reminder, if you have feedback, shoot us a message at podcast@gearforgesoftware.com. And you can also contact us on Twitter at Gearforge IoT, just like it sounds. And Cliff, do you have anything fun planned for the weekend?
Well, like I told you, I got Star Wars Battlefront, so I've got one and
Mhm.
two now.
How
So my
are you
goal,
enjoying it?
I am. I absolutely love it. I better because it's the only games I have right now for my PlayStation, so I don't
Yeah,
have a choice. But I'm hoping that I might be able to actually beat my son in a game or two this weekend. We will
fun.
see. I have
Yeah.
not beat him yet.
Well, that does sound like fun.
Yep. How about you?
So I am really looking forward to watching some Buffy the Vampire Slayer this
Oh,
weekend.
fun. Nice.
Yes. So Amanda and I, some of our friends actually said, well, we started watching those on Hulu. And that inspired us. We needed a show, so we started watching too. And season one was kind of, we never watched it, but when it was
Okay.
originally on, it
Sure.
started in '97, so
Yep.
gives you a sense of the timeline. We never watched it. I knew nothing about it, but we were like, well, let's give it a try. First season was blah. It was all right. It was corny, and we were fine with it. And now we're in like most of the way through the second season and just loving it. So I'm actually really excited. Maybe we do like a little Buffy marathon on Saturday,
Ooh,
and all
that'll
three
be
of us
fun.
watch it. Yeah, me and Amanda and Callum, and we all enjoy it.
Huh.
So kind of fun to have a family show like that.
Yeah, get the dogs up on the couch and throw on a little Buffy and enjoy.
Yeah, totally. So as silly as it sounds, I'm actually really looking forward to that. And
That's
then,
awesome.
I'll geek out with something. I probably spend some more time with that PowerShell stuff on Linux. So
Oh, there you go. Yeah, I think I'll probably play with the .NET and just keep moving that forward a little bit on the Mac, I think myself.
Yeah, it sounds like fun. I can't wait to hear what you think of it.
I'll let you know.
Well, thank you so much for listening. We hope you'll join us again for next week's show. And until then, so long and be well.
Take care.